Hey guys, Fox here, and today it is time to talk about the first ever United Football League Tank Bowl between the Houston Roughnecks and the Arlington Renegades. We had the first ever UFL Tank Bowl this past week, so before we get into looking back at this game, let's go right into it on the two teams in this matchup. This historic matchup pits the 0-3 Arlington Renegades against the 0-3 Houston Roughnecks. The Arlington Renegades come into this game having lost 3 straight games, with their first one being a loss that the second half kind of got away for them. After a deep shot ended up giving the Stallions a touchdown at the end of the half, the Renegades would never be close again and would end up losing. But both against the Battlehawks and Defenders, the Renegades would lose on quite literally last-second field goals. 2 separate field goals to end the game ended up giving them 2 more losses to put them at 0-3. The Houston Roughnecks are a bit different. Despite the score showing it was close, the game was really never that close against the Memphis Showboats, and the DC Defenders tried their best to hand the game to the Roughnecks, but the Roughnecks politely declined to win that game. And then against the Michigan Panthers, they let the Michigan Panthers offense that had looked terrible all year go off. And that is how they went 0-3. This game is a big deal in terms of the playoffs as well, as both teams sitting at 0-3 need a win here. After all the other games had finished, the standings had 2 3-1 teams and a 2-2 team in the XFL Conference, and in the USL Conference, a 4-0 team, a 2-2 team, and a 1-3 team. A loss here will pretty much eliminate their season hopes. But before we get into the game, there is one big thing that happened. Mark Thompson is back. Yes, the 2023 USFL Offensive Player of the Year, and by many people's accounts, the best running back in the entire league, is finally back. Having him back is a huge deal, as the Houston Gamblers last year were 0-2 without him, before having him return to finish 5-3 for the rest of the season. So with all that, let's get into the Tank Bowl. The game starts in a pretty dramatic fashion and already sets the tone for what this game will be. After the Renegades receive the ball on the kickoff, they do absolutely nothing with the ball and are forced to punt. But by total accident and just by lucking out, Isaiah Henney ends up fumbling the ball for the Roughnecks, giving the Renegades the ball back, which they shouldn't even have had. And the Renegades then proceed to do absolutely nothing with the free chance they got and are forced to kick a field goal to get an early 3-0 lead. After this, the two teams trade punts before Luis Perez's interception ends up being the final real drive of the quarter, as the Roughnecks get the ball but end up the quarter with a 3-0 score, having a completely uneventful game after that insane opening sequence and the interception. The second quarter starts with a huge play as the Roughnecks decide to go for it in 4th and 1, and Mark Thompson proves why he was such a big threat last year, as on one of his very first plays, he ends up rushing for 12 yards on a 4th down play. But the Roughnecks get stopped after that, but are able to get the field goal to tie the game up 3-3. After this, the Renegades end up doing nothing, so do the Roughnecks, and this kind of happens for a little while, until the Roughnecks end up getting an actual touchdown play, thanks to a great catch by Cyril Grayson just a couple plays earlier, followed by the Reed Sinet pass for the touchdown, and they end up converting the 2-point conversion to take the lead 11-3. After this, nothing else ends up happening in the rest of the half. Both teams just kind of fail to do anything, and we go into the half 11-3 Roughnecks lead. First drive out of the half, the Roughnecks get the ball and end up making a great drive downfield for Mark Thompson to get a touchdown run, to put them up 17-3 as they end up failing the 2-point conversion afterward. The Renegades, however, would immediately respond, getting a touchdown of their own, but they also fail the 2-point conversion, making the score 17-9 in a 2-score game. For the rest of the quarter, both teams would once again just kind of fail to do anything of note on offense, and that leads us to the 4th quarter. And then after this, the 4th quarter have a bunch of nothing end up happening until the Renegades get one drive going, where in a 4th down play they convert it, except for the fact there is a terrible penalty as Sal Cannella gets called for an illegal crackback block of 15-yard penalty, which forces the Renegades to punt the ball. After this punt, the game would essentially be over, as both teams would end up not really doing anything, and the game would truly end when Luis Perez gets strip fumbled at the very end of the game with less than 10 seconds left to end the Tank Bowl, the first ever UFL Tank Bowl. 17-9, Houston Roughnecks beat the Arlington Renegades. The overall stats for this game were pretty crazy. The fact is that when you look at it, it is really weird. The Houston Roughnecks ended up winning this game, but both teams pretty much played terribly in offense. The Renegades, who usually are one of the best teams at converting 3rd downs, went 2 of 10, whereas the Roughnecks were only a little bit better at 3 of 11. Both teams ended up having turnovers. Both teams ended up not playing all that great. But the fact is the Roughnecks were able to get the W in the end. The Roughnecks mainly won this game because of Mark Thompson being back, as even though he only had a few carries, a couple of them were very big moments, whether it be the fourth down play or the touchdown run. Mark's involvement is a huge reason why the Roughnecks were able to win this game. And the other one is that this was Luis Perez's worst game in the UFL this season, as his 15 of 28 for 144 yards, 1 TD to 1 interception is by far the worst game he has had all season. And at multiple points in this game, it looked like Lindsey Scott should have been legitimately put in for more than just a couple of plays. All in all, what this does, though, is this makes the Roughnecks now a legit playoff contender. We saw last year how much better the team was when Mark Thompson was back, and now that they are 1-0, they legitimately could make a run for the playoffs thanks to them only having a team above them by one win. Granted, they do have the head-to-head in the Panthers, but they are still only one game behind for being the same record. As for the Renegades, their season is all but over. Having two separate teams at 3-1 in their conference makes it a very tough journey for the Renegades to make the playoffs. As even if they win 6 straight games and finish 6-4, that's not a guarantee that that's going to be a good enough record to make the playoffs. And so with that, the Renegade season is pretty much over. So I'll do it for this video. This has been the first UFL Tank Bowl of the, United Football League's history. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified as soon as I upload any videos. If you enjoy this content, make sure to also think about becoming a channel member for as low as $1 a month. You get exclusive benefits, including one video per month that is exclusive to channel members, which also released earlier today. And as always, have a great night.